the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.
For the first hit. Rutschman into right field. Down the line. A fair ball. Adley will turn first. Head for second. He's going to turn second. Go for third. Rutschman into third base standing. An extra base hit. His first hit in the major leagues. Welcome to the...
These are long pitch innings. I think Blister, that's what you want to make sure.
Here's a high fly ball into right. Back his bat's on the move. On the track. He's got it. What a catch by Mookie Betts.
Now, Clifford looking for a clean inning here in the seventh.
Hit well out to right center field. Jones still on the move, running out of room, and he made it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Ballpark. As always, I'm your host Patrick Moran, alongside Brendan Cunningham. Of course, it is trade deadline season, so we got to dive into that. My season's over, calling games for the Silver Spring Tacoma Thunderbolts. So I'm in the clear for August. I know Brendan, you're still working your job, but gotta take some time. We gotta talk about the frenzy that is trade deadline season. It's always a good time. But before we dive into all that, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited for the trade deadline. I was just talking before. I feel like we're due for a good one. I mean, we had that 2021 where a bunch of guys got moved. I feel like it's time. Let's get some player movement. I want to see some contenders really go out there and try to get the best players and really compete. It's going to be fun to see. And hopefully my Red Sox can make some moves. That's what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. I think it'll be a little bit tougher because there's more parity. I said that before. Just teams with more wild card spots, maybe they're more inclined to just kind of roll with what they have, or kind of lean one direction but not fully go in, so it's a little bit tougher in that aspect. But it should be fun. There are a lot of good pieces on the deadline. From a personal perspective, you got the Red Sox, who for you, they could be in a buying spot now. They've been playing some pretty good ball. And then, of course, the Orioles are they're looking to move rentals, so that's nice. But we'll dive straight into it, and we're gonna analyze actually some previous trades before we dive into predictions here, because we kind of have a laundry list of potential guys to be moved. But there was obviously some stuff that's already happened, and the first one I feel like was the most notable. And it was Josh Naylor to the Seattle Mariners for, I believe it was a pitching prospect, Ashton Izzy, and then it was Brandon Garcia. So I'll look up some of the details. And Brendan, what are your thoughts for Seattle?
I love this deal. I mean, you always talk about the pitching with Seattle. We've talked about it for years now. The pitching is so great. Offense getting a little better. Obviously, you got Cal Raleigh, but I think Josh Naylor, he's just like a great RBI producer. I mean, that's what he does offensively. He just brings so much to the table. I mean, defense is not getting much, but for what they need, I think I love this deal for them. What do you think?
I think it's pretty good. I like what's going on there. I applaud Seattle for going out, getting a guy here, and that's exactly what happened. Seattle needed a bat like this. They kind of had a first base void, so to say. And now that they're filling it with Josh Naylor, I really like it. And they dealt away Brandon Garcia, who kind of an MLB ready arm. He's able to plug in immediately for the D-backs, at least out of the bullpen. But you're hoping for more. Maybe you're hoping for a starter if you're moving him back to the rotation. But for now, the Diamondbacks just kind of need some bullpen help. So they did get that. And then they got Ashton Izzy. I forget what rank he is in the, in the farm, but they managed to get him in that deal as well. Kind of more of an upside play. Maybe he's going to be a starter at some point. That's what the hope is. But, they Diamondbacks, they added 2 good arms to a system that kind of needed it. And the Mariners, from their perspective, they're just kind of able to spawn arms. So I'm sure they had no problem moving those guys for Josh Naylor. And although he is a rental, the contract is up after this year, I still think it's a great move. This is kind of what we've wanted from Seattle, from the get-go. So
Yeah. Then what's the next deal we're going to? We're going to the
I got Ryan McMahon next up on the list.
Ryan McMahon. Yeah. Ryan McMahon to the Yankees. I'll look at the full details for you. I mean, you have them.
I'm trying to get it up. I forget when it happened. It was Ryan McMahon. It was another pitching prospect deal. So that's
Griffin Herring and Josh Groves.
That's right. Yep. I knew it was 2 pitching prospects. Griffin Herring being one of them.
I'm not big in the prospects, but this is kind of what the Yankees needed. Aaron Judge just went down with the injury. We're talking for the show. Only 10-day, but still, that offense is not much without him. So, and there was definitely a gap at third base. They waived, they DFA'd DJ LeMahieu. No one really to play third base. So then, there was talks about them maybe getting Gino. Ryan McMahon was on the table a little bit. Maybe Nolan Arenado. They went with Ryan McMahon. I would have thought for them to go a little bigger. They are Yankees. I thought maybe they get Gino. But, they went with the cheaper guy in Ryan McMahon, which isn't bad. He's still a nice player. It's just, you don't know he's going to translate out of Colorado. But it's definitely a need for the Yankees. They need this offensively because outside of, Judge and maybe even Bellinger, that's kind of in the offense. So get another bat in there, I think, especially at third base, is good for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you said it well. The Yankees definitely could have aimed higher, but instead they opted to kind of go a little bit on the safer side. And they got, just a good defender. And, you're kind of hoping that the bat plays up at Yankee Stadium, even though he's coming from Colorado where you're playing on the moon. So, but I kind of think they more so needed the defense. And, the Yankees kind of struggle with that. We've seen that on the bigger stage. So, yeah, I think that was really what they were targeting. And he already made a good play with them over at the hot corners. So, I really think that's what they're looking for. And it's also, like you said, DJ LeMahieu gone. They just had to cut bait on that contract. So, I think it was honestly a pretty good move. I mean, Griffin Herring, an intriguing left-handed pitching prospect, got Josh Gores, or however you say it, just an arm. I mean, it's the only way Colorado's going to get arms in their system is via trade or draft, because it's hard to get a free agent pitcher to go to Colorado. So, this is what they have to do. And while they could have traded Ryan McMahon, at a different point. It's how it's ended up. So, overall, I didn't think it was too bad. I mean, Griffin Herring was kind of interesting. He's kind of got some value, and I don't feel like you had to give up a ton to get Ryan McMahon. But, it is what it is. The Yankees will pay that premium, and they just got a good player. So, I guess on that note, we'll just go to Ahmed Rosario, who did go to the Yankees as well. And I feel like this kind of makes sense in a way, Ahmed Rosario, right-handed bat. He can play a bunch of different positions. And this is coming off the heels of Aaron Judge hitting the 10-day IL. So, they're kind of going to be able to use Ahmed Rosario, short platoon, utility man. And he's going to spell some left-handed at-bats. Or some at-bats against lefties. So I think that's really the main thing here for Ahmed Rosario. And he's playing pretty well up to this point with the Nationals. He's hitting about 270, I believe, at the moment. And, now he's going to Yankee Stadium. Maybe he'll find some more success there, along with Ryan McMahon. They traded him in exchange for Clayton Beeter and Brown Martinez. Clayton Beeter was traded for Joey Gallo, interestingly enough. So now he's getting flipped again. You're just hoping that he's something. He just kind of stalled out in the minors, unfortunately, with good stuff. And then Brown Martinez, I believe, is the guy at the complex or in the, Florida Summer League. So got some intrigue. I honestly think, before I turn it over to you, this was a really good job by the Nationals. You got a pitcher with intrigue that's going to be a major leaguer one way or another, even if it, hasn't looked that good in the minors. And then you just took a flyer on a guy who's performing well right now, even though he hasn't come stateside. So that's exactly what you trade. That's exactly why you sign an Ahmed Rosario in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said pretty well there. Going back to the Aaron Judge injury, that's kind of what they needed. A guy to fill in. Ahmed Rosario, that's perfect fit for them right now. Maybe play after Aaron Judge is back, but they have him fill in for that role. And like you said, with the rental free agent pickup, I mean, maybe every team should start doing this. If you know you're gonna be bad, just take a shot on the guy in free agency, and then just trade him. You get some prospects out of it. It's not a bad deal for you. Just got to spend a little money, make the fans a little happy that you're spending money, but then you deal him for some value. So I think it's great for it's kind of win-win for both teams here. Nationals get some prospects, and the Yankees get a fill-in for Judge. I think it's a good trade.
I don't think Ahmed Rosario is directly filling in for Aaron Judge, but
no, that's not what I meant. Not what I meant at all. But don't now. Yeah. I'm gonna rephrase that. If Aaron Judge is like a gallon, Ahmed Rosario he's like a cup. He's like he's pouring a cup of water into the gallon. That's what he's filling right there.
Yeah, I mean again,
it's better than nothing.
Exactly. I mean, it's gonna help them. It's gonna help them in some way, shape, or form. I mean, he's just versatile, can do a couple of good things, and for rental, it's not too bad. Next up, oh man, on our list, it's Gregory Soto going to the New York Mets. It kind of hurts for me. I mean, I kind of knew it was going to happen, just because we had guys that were rentals, and, we need to move rentals. That's just the state the Orioles are in right now, and they sent Gregory Soto to the Mets for Wellington Aracena and Cameron Foster, two right-handed arms. Aracena, he's a guy who he's in the lower levels, got some really good stuff. Could end up being a reliever in the future, but I think they're hoping he's going to be a starter at some point. And then, Cameron Foster, an older guy in Double-A, 26 years old. Maybe he enters the picture in middle relief next year for Baltimore. It's kind of what the Orioles need to do. They need to get minor league arms. The pitching has been absolutely terrible, so you kind of have to retool it a little bit. So for Gregory Soto, honestly, not too bad. Is a rental lefty. Maybe the Mets use him as a lefty specialist. Well, it'll be interesting to see. They did need a lefty in the pen, and they got their guy, or they got a guy who can do that. So I think for the Mets, it's a pretty good deal. I do like it in that sense. They needed a guy with strikeout stuff from the left side, and Gregory Soto certainly got that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said. There's going to be a lot of other guys we talk about here because the Orioles do have a lot of rentals. And that's just what kind of the Mets need. Always need pitching as a contender like the Mets. Bullpen's always in need. So you're going to see a lot of these relievers get traded. We're not going to talk about a bunch of them, but there's going to be a lot of relievers moved. It happens every year. Contenders want just more arms. That's what you need playoff time. So good trade for the Mets. It's what you got to do with the Orioles.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate reality. Gotta admit to it. And speaking of which, we gotta talk about another Orioles reliever. Seranthony Dominguez is on the move. Speaking of Orioles arms, just want to shout out Kyle Bradish on rehab. Amazing to see. But we're not here to talk about that. Seranthony Dominguez to the Blue Jays, and they moved Cash as well. And they got Juan Watts Brown, who's a minor league arm. I believe he's in Double A. He's 23 years old. Again, this is just what the Orioles need to be collecting right now. He's looked good. I mean, 3.5 ERA in 19 starts in 89 innings. You know, that's what I want the Orioles to target. And they got it for Sir Anthony Dominguez, who, I mean, hasn't been the most impressive, even though the stuff is really good. And I like it for Toronto. They can always use more bullpen help. And it's funny because we're literally playing them in a doubleheader today as we're recording. So he's literally just got to go to the other clubhouse at Camden Yards. But, I mean, yeah, I get it from a Blue Jay perspective. They're in a spot to win the division. I mean, they're in first place when no one would have expected that. And, you know, if you were to poke a hole right now, it would be in the bullpen. And they got a guy that took a pretty cheap cost to get, and he's got a decent amount of upside. So, similar to the Mets, I do like the idea. You know, just teams fortifying the bullpen, and that's it. So,
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty awkward going, just across. I don't know where the clubhouses are, but just walking over the other dugout, and with all your oil stuff. It just an awkward situation he's gonna have to go through, but maybe he's psyched, to get on a contender. That's no offense to Orioles, it's just the reality. But it's kind of the same thing with the Mets, like you said. Orioles got to dish these guys that are rentals to contenders. That's where they are. Keep on doing it, and then we're gonna, like I said, talk about it more. They got to trade all these rentals. They got to be gone. You got to get some value out of them, because you're just gonna lose them eventually. So it's good that they're getting rid of some, and they need to keep going.
for sure. And then one of the last two we have to talk about, Chris Paddock going to the Detroit Tigers in division swap. Kind of interesting. You don't normally see that. But the Tigers pulled it off. They got Chris Paddock. Let me just make sure I got this right here on the transactions. Oh, they got Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak from the Detroit Tigers in exchange, or the Twins traded those two to the Detroit Tigers for Enrique Jimenez. So, I don't know anything about Jimenez. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know anything. So, he's just kind of a, performing in the complex, taking a flyer. It hasn't been that bad. 779 OPS, pretty good. But, I honestly think it's a really good move for Detroit. The Chris Paddock coming in, you needed someone to fill some innings. And I think Paddock's got okay upside. I feel like it's better than what people give him credit for. I mean, he's only 29 years old, and I know the ERA is near 5, but the stuff is still good enough, and he's just going to be able to pitch. He's made 21 starts this year. I think he's just going to be a valuable arm, and I feel like he's better than people give him credit for, but at the same time, it's not exactly a earth-moving type of trade. So, got to keep that in mind. But they got some bullpen help, got some starting rotation help for basically nothing. I mean, yeah, I think that's a really good job of Detroit.
Yeah, it doesn't really move the needle a lot for the Tigers. I feel like you heard this going on for a while. They wanted Paddock. They got him, and like you said, for so cheap. I like it for Detroit. I feel like they're a pitching factory. If there's one, you look at the ERA and you kind of assume the worst, but if there's one team that can, fix it around for them, I feel like it's the Tigers, because they know pitching. Obviously, you got Terry Scuball, and they got so many pitchers over the years. So maybe they can figure it out for him. Like you said, great stuff. Just ERA is too high. And that's why they kind of got him on cheap. They probably see something there. If they want to go get him, they probably see something with him that they can fix to get him, in a playoff, to use him in the playoffs eventually. I think that's what the hope here for this trade is. So overall, I think good trade for the Tigers.
Yeah, I agree. And then the last one, Danny Jansen, your GOAT, played in the same game for both teams. He's going to the Brewers, and the Rays are able to flip him in exchange for, let me just make sure, Jader Arenamo if I'm saying that correctly. Again, not a guy that I'm super familiar with, but I mean, it is what it is. You're just taking a flyer. He's got an 818 OPS and high A, so I guess that's something. But yeah, I mean, I guess the Brewers fortifying the catching depth. I mean, William Contreras has not followed up his 2024 season in the best of ways, and you still have Jefferson Caro waiting in the minor leagues for, the Brewers. We're kind of gonna have that stopgap right now, just some stability. Not a major move, but it certainly helps to get an MLB catcher.
Um, yeah. I mean, former Red Sox, Danny Jansen, he was on the team for like a second. Um, he didn't really do much for us. I wasn't really paying attention to him this year. But look at the numbers. I mean, he's not having a bad year. 18 home runs, 11 home runs, 204 average for a catcher, 1.8 WAR. Not terrible. I know he's probably gonna play for the Brewers. He's got like a mutual option next year, so you don't not a big time commitment with Danny Jansen. Like you said, prospects coming up. Add a little depth, like you said. Not big deal, not a real kind of like the Chris Paddock deal. Not gonna move the needle a lot, but it's something.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And I mean, it's hard to find, it's hard to find major league catchers, and that's what the Brewers did. And they're in a spot to win. They've been playing well, so love to see it. And now we get into the fun part, the predictions. How do we want to do this? I know I said that we could just read it down, but how do you think would be the best way to do it?
I mean, let's go one by one,
Okay, all right, fine. So the first name on our list was Gino Suarez. We'll just alternate, so you can intro the next one, so on and so forth. Gino Suarez is probably the biggest name on the market. That's why he's the first name on the list. I had him going to Detroit. I mean, Gino Suarez, I believe, has 35-plus homers this year. And, he's a rental. There's only 1 year left. But it's hard to find a player of this caliber, or the way he's performing right now. We haven't really seen a player get moved like this. So it's a fascinating conversation. And I just feel like Detroit could use that. I mean, you immediately have a third baseman, and you're able to fill some other problems. Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, Parker Meadows, that whole thing with shortstop and center field. However you want to deal with it, it takes away a problem. And Gino Suarez can just mash. I mean, it seems like the power is going to play anywhere, and Detroit's farm system is just so good that I feel like they could pull it off and give up like maybe one or two notable pieces. But it doesn't kill the farm system too much, and you're not giving up like a big name, like a Max Clark, a Kevin McGonigal. So I feel like the fit is really good for Suarez in Detroit. And, the Yankees kind of took themselves out with the Ryan McMahon trade.
Yeah. I thought he was going to Yankees. I thought that was like for sure a spot. It's kind of what they love, the home runs over there. But I'm thinking the other New York team. Heading over to the Mets. Third base, you got Vientos not having a great year following that amazing postseason. Brett Batty's playing there, but I think Gino could fill some holes that they have there. I think he'd be a good fit. I know there's been talks about it. They kind of need that long ball. I know they got some guys doing it, but Gino, I mean, he kind of fits anywhere with how good he's playing. Any team would take him. But I think the Mets, they're going to be buyers. They want to win. They always want to win with Steve Cohen. So, I'm going to go to New York Mets.
I respect it. You can take us into the next guy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to preface my order might be a little different. I wrote down, but the next guy I got Merrill Kelly. I got him going to the Cubs. Having a lot of starting pitcher trouble over there. They're obviously competing. What are they? They're at the top of the. What are they? Are they first in the division?
They've been sliding, but they're, I believe, at the top still.
It doesn't matter
because they were off to such a good start.
They're a contender in my book. They have all the tools except for maybe some starting pitchers. And to get a vet like this, and Merrill Kelly's been there. He's been in the postseason, been in the World Series only like 2 years ago. To get back him, I think would be a good move for the Cubs. At it, they need starting pitching. I think this Kelly would definitely be a move for him. And what's is 1 year? Does he have a contract next year?
Rental.
Um,
He's a rental.
Rental. So and he's old, so I think I'd take that deal for the Cubs.
That's pretty good. I see that. I mean, the Cubs definitely need to be in the pitching market. And I actually have Merrill Kelly going to Detroit again. I think Detroit, even after the Geno Suarez trade, could still make it happen for Merrill Kelly. I don't think it would be that expensive. We talked about it a little bit with Chris Paddock. You just need to fill some innings. But except this time with Merrill Kelly, you can maybe think about putting him in the postseason rotation. So, yeah, I think even still, like I talked about with Geno, the Detroit Tigers farm system is so good that they could make these two moves. And I feel like it would really, do them a solid as a team.
Okay. A lot of Tigers early. They're gonna buy in this year, heavy.
Yeah. Although I will say, I know it's not fun back to back, but those are my only two Tigers moves on my list. Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hold on, I'm going to look up the contract situation. But as I do, I'm going to tell you my prediction. Brendan, you're going to like to hear this. I got him going to the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox
Love it.
could be in this spot. I feel like Mitch Keller's a really good fit for Boston. So, yeah, there's some control here. You're buying with control for if you're Boston. You need that, middle rotation near frontline arm in a Mitch Keller. I don't think it would be that much, and I feel like the Red Sox have some bats that the Pirates could be interested in. I mean, he's only making $15 million this year, and, the Pirates bought out the arbitration. It's going to escalate. It's going to get up to $16 million or nearly $17 million next year, and then 18 in 2027, and then 20 in 2028. I think the Red Sox wouldn't have too many problems taking that on, and I think he's just a really good pitcher. I don't know how good, but he's still going to be fairly reliable. I mean, he's got a 3.69 ERA. At worst, he's like a 3 or a 4. At best, you can plug him into that postseason rotation. And you talked about how you want that guy. So I think Keller, at his best, could be what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I was talking about it earlier. I have most to go to the Red Sox. If this team makes the playoffs, they're probably gonna be the wild card. And it's a 3-game series. Game 1, you're obviously going Crochet. But then that number 2, I mean, we just don't have one right now. I mean, Brian Bale, I love him, but he's just not number 2 right now. He's just too young. There's really no one else. I mean, I don't want Giolito or Walker Buehler going out there because they haven't been really that good. So we definitely need to get a number 2. I don't care who it is. If it's Merrill Kelly, if it's Mitch Keller, if it's someone else that we're going to mention later. I think it's going to be Mitch Keller. It just, it seems like the right fit. We need number 2. Like you said, it's not going to cost that much. But I'm going to segue into my next pick, which is David Bednar, because I also have him going to the Red Sox. I think they're both going to be sent in the same trade to the Red Sox because, this team, they need starting pitching, but they also need some bullpen help. Aroldis Chapman he's kind of banged up right now. He's got a little injury. He's been our best reliever. And outside of that, there's not much there. The Jordan Hicks, who we got in the Raffy trade, has not been good. I don't trust him. So I would love to get Dave Bednar, just another arm in the bullpen. It'd be crucial if we make the playoffs and to use those guys come playoff time.
We're sticking on a theme here. I also had David Bednar going to the Red Sox.
There we go.
So we're 4 for 4 on Red Sox here combined. Yeah, I didn't even realize that, you could package those two in the same deal. And, again, I feel like the Red Sox kind of need that bullpen help. You mentioned, Aroldis Chapman. Initially, it looked like he was going to be on the block. But now with the Red Sox kind of being in a spot where they can compete, you could look at David Bednar for the bullpen. It's kind of buying high, and that could be a risk because Bednar's had some struggles. But the Pirates have to sell high on him. I mean, this is probably the best chance you have after he kind of looked dead in the water a little bit at one point. And I feel like Boston will be the team. You know, he can alternate between setup, closer, high leverage reliever, whatever you want to do. I feel like he would be there. So, for me, really good iron in the fire in the back end of the bullpen. And if the Red Sox want to make that push, they can absolutely do that. And it's not, again, he's cheap. Cheap is in terms of salary. You have a year of control beyond 2025. He'd be in his last year of arbitration next year. Again, I think this would be a great move for Boston if they do want to go all in.
I'm praying for it. Praying.
I know you are. I mean, honestly, I want to see it because I love Roman Anthony. I love Garrett Crochet. I mean, yeah, I know that it's haunting in the AL East, but those two are just awesome. I love them. I don't know about you.
How can I not?
Exactly? I mean, hey, Red Sox, they're doing better. They're doing better without Devers. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So.
Right move. All right, Craig.
Was it? I mean, it could be a good move.
Get the toxicity out of the clubhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Next up, Cedric Mullins. This one pains me. Yeah, I mean, Cedric Mullins, longtime Orioles center fielder. He now has 100 career home runs, 100 career stolen bases. He hit that milestone the other day. It's a tough conversation. I mean, I don't think Mullins is going to be back in 2026. So you kind of just have to sell him. I don't know how much of a haul he gets, but, you know, you're still going to get something for at least league average center fielder, although he's kind of been cold. And the WAR is actually negative, which I was shocked to see. But I have him going to the Phillies. I feel like the Phillies could use a guy like this, just strong up the middle. You have the Mullins. You know, you just get a new fresh face, a new platoon mate with a Johan Rojas. If you want to do that, I don't even know. But it feels like they just need a competent center fielder, and they don't really have that right now. So I think Cedric Mullins could potentially eat at Citizens Bank, just, you know, hit better. So, yeah, for me, I think the Phillies could do it, and I feel like they'd have the best pitcher to offer. And I feel like, you know, funny to think of how it could be a bidding war with the Mets over Cedric Mullins. But I think ultimately Philly does win that war, and they land him. So.
You know, I feel like are you reading off my list? Am I reading off yours? I also have him going to the Phillies here. This is kind of weird. We're on fire right now. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow for the Orioles. I mean, he was with there in the lows of 2021. He went with the highs in 2024 and 2023, back down low. But it's just tough. I mean, is he the longest tenured Oriole right now? Is that
Yes,
correct?
he is. After Santander, yeah.
All right, so he's been the guy for a long time. So yeah, talking about the Phillies right now in center field, they got Brandon Marsh out there. Has not been great this season. I think Cedric Mullins, you know, if they want to still they can run both of them, but I think Cedric Mullins definitely be an upgrade for them. He's just a guy, kind of does everything, a little pop. Speed, defense. You know what you get in Cedric Mullins. He's a pretty consistent player last few years actually. So I think this would be a good pickup for them. You know, a contender needs some outfield help. Cedric Mullins is definitely the guy. You know, Mets is also a possibility, like you said, but I also have him going to the Phillies.
All right. With that, you can take us into our next name.
I might be a little order. Who you have next? I have Nolan Arenado next, but who do you have?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Whoever's
go,
up next. We'll get all these names, so.
Yeah. I'll go to Nolan Arenado. I think I was the one to mention the name, but I think he's going to stay. I just think there's not a market for him right now. He's not playing great. I don't know who's going to want him. There's other third basemen still available that are better. You know, I don't see him getting moved here. He hasn't been playing well. He's old. I'm not sure what's the contract looking like. I need to look that up.
It's pretty expensive, I think, for what
Expensive.
he's doing. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
for not much production. So
Here, you keep talking. I'll look it up.
yeah, so I think the defense is still kind of there. Offense, not really. If you want, I just don't know what playoff teams is just going to want this bat that's not going to give you much value. It's just not what teams are looking for. They probably already have a guy who are giving them the same production. So why would we move to a guy who's more expensive like Nolan Arenado and older? Who knows not going to really improve. I mean, maybe he has a resurgence. I doubt it. Looks like his career is kind of dwindling here, which is a little sad to see. But I think he's going to maybe finish out in St. Louis.
So upon further review, he's getting $21 million, and then 16 in 2026, 15 in 2027, and that's it. So it's pretty expensive for the production that you're getting from Nolan Arenado. There's just not, he's not that great, it feels like, anymore, which is unfortunate. It's like you said, the decline is, it's a harsh reality. So, yeah, it's tough to swallow because he was pretty much our childhood in terms of growing up on baseball.
He was third baseman. It was
At
like
the third base spot,
Machado.
yeah. Him and Machado and J Ram. But again, we're on the same page. I don't think he's gonna go. I totally agree with you. Like there again, he might just be priced out. Like it might just be too expensive. The contract, and is it really worth paying that price? So yeah, I just didn't think he was gonna move that much. I know you like you said, you mentioned the name, but yeah, I don't think there's really a suitor for him with what you're getting at this point. So
Yeah.
we're on the same page again. Pretty remarkable so far. We'll move on.
Fire.
Yeah, we are. Move on to the next name. I'll go to Zach Allen. Again, it doesn't matter what the order is if we have different lists written down. But Zach Allen, for me, I think he's a New York Met. I know that he's had a down year, and he's only a rental. But I think if you're the Diamondbacks, you kind of have to recoup some value if he's not part of the future plans. Or maybe he is. I don't know. But I think the Mets are a really good spot. I feel like the Mets could get more out of him as a starter. We've seen, the David Stearns regime really take over in terms of pitching. They've had really good pitching performances in the minor leagues. And I feel like with a guy like Zach Allen, they could, grab some of the magic again, which could be pretty exciting because we know that Zach Gallen's is a Cy Young contender when he's right. So I feel like if there's any place for him to go, it would be Queens, and I really like that fit.
Yeah, I was considering. I don't hate it. You said if maybe he's part of the future plans. I don't think he is. I feel like the Diamondbacks would have made that clear already. If he was part of the future, so I don't. I think he's getting moved. I think he's gonna head to Detroit though. You already had your Detroit picks. I think this is the guy going to Detroit. Like you said, a lot of upside there, having a down year, but we know when he's on, he's the Cy Young candidate, like you said. So I think the Tigers are interested in that. It's only 1 year rental. Maybe you can get out of him just for like the last half of the season, because it's a really high upside here for Zach Allen. If he can find it, maybe you just need to change the scenery, and maybe it's New York, maybe it's Detroit, but I think he could be really good for a contender. Like a team like Detroit, I think it's a good fit for him. Like I said, they know starting pitching. I think he's going to Detroit.
So we just had the two expiring contracts on the D-backs. One of us had, we both had one each going to Detroit, so that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But that does break the streak, unfortunately. And with that, you can take us into the next name.
Next one, I got Sandy Alcantara, another Cy Young candidate, Cy Young winner, but having a rough year. Although he's looked good in the past few games, I think. So maybe he's starting to get back. I have him going to the Yankees. I just feel like this guy just sounds like a Yankee. It's a big name. People are going to say, ooh, they got Sandy. It just feels like a Yankee move. He's going to be okay for them. Like, this is what they want. They want the big names, the guys with high upside. They need a little starting pitching help. What's the contract looking like? I always forget to look at the contracts.
So he's making
It's his last year.
17.3 this year and next year. And then it's a club option at 21.
It's not a lot of control. It's a lot of money though. Yankees, I don't think are worried about that though. So, I think it's a good fit in the Bronx. Get a little help starting pitching. I think it's what they need. What do you think?
I see that. I like that shout. I haven't really thought about that fit. Initially, I had him going to the Cubs, but I am going to say that he stays. For me, like, I don't, like, you mentioned that Sandy's underperforming. It hasn't been the greatest year as he's kind of making his way back from TJ. I mean, he's pitching to a 6.66 ERA. It's not good. But, again, he's coming off major arm surgery. In my opinion, like, I don't think there's a ton of precedent to move him right now. I think the Marlins have that leverage of where they can stand firm on an asking price. And if teams aren't willing to meet it, then as of right now, in the moment, there's not a ton of pressure to move him. I feel like it could be an off-season move. I feel like it could be a move at next deadline where you're still getting a ton of value. But I think for now, the Marlins are safe holding on to Sandy.
I see that. I mean, you could wait for the value to get a little higher, have him get a few more good starts in trade in the offseason. I just feel like the Yankees are going to do this. It's kind of, you said the asking price for the Marlins. It's probably going to be too high for Sandy right now, but I think the Yankees are going to pay it. That's just kind of what the Yankees do.
Good.
They want to compete all the time. So I could see it's either going to be Yankees or nothing.
Okay. All right.
That's what I think.
Interesting. So you introed that last name. I'll go to my next name on my list. Ryan O'Hearn, another sad one. Oriole. It's been a pleasure having him. I mean, the story is incredible where he just was DFA'd by the Royals. Orioles got him kind of on the waiver wire trade market, and they DFA'd him. He ended up in AAA back in 2023. And then once he got a shot, he never looked back. And he's been just a ball player since then. And, with one more year, he's cheap. It's like $7 million, $8 million, whatever it is. It's pretty reasonable. I think a lot of teams would be willing to pay for that bulk platoon guy. First base, outfield, can play multiple spots in that aspect. I think I forget where I heard this, but once I heard it, I couldn't get it out of my head. The Milwaukee Brewers, I feel like, could be a great fit in this spot. They have the pitching to deal from. I feel like the Orioles would be, they need that upper level pitching, like I mentioned in the intro, and the Brewers have a ton of it. So, the Brewers just could be comfortable moving off one of their, depth chart starters for Ryan O'Hearn. And, he's an all-star. He made the all-star team in 2025. He went to Atlanta to represent. And I feel like, Milwaukee could use that, help in the lineup. I know Rhys Hoskins is coming back, but I think Ryan O'Hearn would be a great addition. And I just loved the fit when I heard it. So, Milwaukee.
I'm going to Milwaukee. I'm going to Boston. I feel like I'm getting too greedy here right now. This is my third player going to Boston, but I want them to be aggressive, and I feel like they're going to be aggressive. You got all these young guys and easy contracts. It's time to go now. Ryan O'Hearn, we need first base help. Romy, I just had the Grand Slam early this week, but I don't know. It's not the answer. Abraham Toro's not the answer. I think Ryan O'Hearn, plug him in there, plug him anywhere, like you said. So I think it's a long shot if they're gonna get these two guys from the Pirates, but we need some first base help, and I feel like Ryan O'Hearn is an option. He's gonna be cheap. You proposed to me before the show, and I didn't like it, but I thought about it. Now I'm kind of in on it. I feel like it could get done.
It could. You kind of need that stopgap for a Tristan Casas type, so you can certainly have at it. And now that we've talked about Ryan O'Hearn, next name up on the list.
Going to another Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals. I am going to Texas Rangers. A team with a slow start to the year. They're picking it up now. They need some bullpen help. Ryan Helsley, I feel like, is the guy. It's a typical scenario, like I said. Bullpen arm, going to a team that wants to contend. And this, it's not a bad option. He was really good last year. I have some trouble pulling up his stats here and some internet and his contract. But if you look at the numbers, the Rangers need some bullpen help. Like I said, starting pitching looks good, offense is looking better. But I feel like they need an arm with bullpen, and Ryan Helsley can be that guy. St. Louis is selling. This is time to get him. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't think about Texas, but I don't know if they're in the best spot to contend. So
I never said they're contenders. I said they want to contend.
yeah, that's true. I can see that. He's making about $8 million this year, and then he's going to be a free agent in 2026. So yeah, I mean that's pretty reasonable. For me, where is he on my list? I had him going to Philly. I think Philly could just, Texas I think could have a good offer, but I feel like Phillies would be better, and they need the outfield help. They need the bullpen help. With Jose Alvarado getting that suspension, I think Ryan Helsley would be a great fit. There's just been a lot of instability there after Alvarado was handed the suspension, and I think Ryan Helsley could kind of be a traffic calmer, just be really good coming out of the bullpen throwing fuzz. He's got a 3 ERA flat in 36 innings, so 21 saves. I think that's a guy that can make a lot of sense for Philly, who could be playing with a more balls to the walls attitude this deadline.
Okay.
Right, next name.
Who do you have next?
I was up next. I'll go to Brandon Lau. I mentioned Brandon Lau. I believe he's a rental as well, so that makes for an interesting conversation here. I'm gonna look this up. Brandon Lau. I will say my pick is pretty wacky. I just had him going to the Angels.
Who?
I couldn't think of what?
Do you hate Brandon Lau? Is this a hate?
No, I don't
It's like a
hate Brandon
death
Lau.
wish, is it?
No, the Angels are kind of close, which is weird. They're 52 and 55. So, I don't know what it is. I feel like it's kind of a gut feeling. I thought about Brandon Lau, and he's a great player, and he'd be valuable to a lot of different teams. But, Angels are only 4.5 out. And we know the Angels, if they think that they're going to contend, then they will go do something. So, I don't know. I couldn't think of the perfect fit for Brandon Lau, so I just said Angels. I feel like the Angels could come in and just make a random move, and Brandon Lau would be the guy. And honestly, that would be a pretty good move. So,
Yeah, sure, I could see it. I could see the Angels being delusional and think they can make it. But I had them going to the Astros. The Astros, I think they're looking for a bat right now. They're trying to make a push, and I think Brandon Lau would fit in nicely for them. I don't know maybe where you'd fit in, but I think they figure it out. Nonetheless, so Brandon Lau, I had them going to the Astros. Angels, I don't hate it though. Now that you explained it.
yeah, I don't know. That's probably my worst take. But you know what? I will say I had Houston written down before I changed it because I shifted some things. And I feel like once I shift one move, it shifts some other moves. So I do like your idea as well. But I don't know. I just spontaneous Angels. We know the Angels and how they operate.
Angels being stupid.
That's a little mean.
Just sell.
that was mean. I mean, they are stupid, but that was mean. And, I mean, it's a club option for 11.5. I feel like that could be picked up by anyone for Brandon Lau next year.
Yeah, good.
You got the next name.
I do. I got another Ray. I got Yandy Diaz. Kind of going in with the Brandon Lau. They're loosening up on him, I heard. Talk with the Red Sox. I thought of him for Red Sox. I just think if we're gonna get these two Pirates guys, it's gonna be too expensive because I think he's not a free agent until 2027. So he's got 2026 under contract too. Um, so I don't know if it's the Red Sox. So I have him just staying in Tampa. I think they're gonna hold on for one more year. I think they dish Brandon Lau, but I think that they always gonna want to be competitive a year. So they're gonna keep him maybe one more year. Things are working out next year. They'll then dish him. But I think he just stays in Tampa for the time being.
I agree. I also had him staying. Another guy similar to Sandy, obviously a different conversation because it's bad. I feel like, just with the team control and, like, you don't have to move him if you don't feel like the offer's there. I just think that the Rays could hold serve on Yandy and, again, move him at a different time. Move him in the offseason, move him next deadline, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be now. If you don't, if you feel too pressured to make a move, then you don't need to do it. So I think Yandy's going to stay put. I have the next name. I'll go to another Oriole, Ramon Laureano. I mean, we all know how sad this is for me. We're just ravaging the team. And Ramon Laureano, honestly, been really good. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. He's tied for the team lead in home runs with Cedric Mullins. And this is one where I could understand if the Orioles don't want to move him, because there is a club option that's almost certainly going to get picked up at this rate. I mean, he's getting $4 million and a club option at $6.5. I mean, with this production, that's easy. Just take it to the bank at this point with his 865 OPS, 15 homers, 17 doubles. I mean, it's really good. But for me, as much as I wanted to say that he's going to stay, I had him going to the San Diego Padres. I initially had the Mariners, but I feel like the Padres would be a good fit. They kind of need to round out the order, and I feel like Ramon Laureano is the perfect guy to, slot in the back half or in the front half, just lengthening it out. However they want to do it, I think Ramon Laureano would be a really good fit in San Diego, just making the lineup more complete off of, kind of being more top-heavy right now.
I also have him going to the Padres. Kind of for the same reason. Just they're bad in the lineup. Like you said, top heavy. They're going to be aggressive. Padres always are aggressive. And I forgot their GM's name, but he just plays aggressive. That's what he does. He makes moves a lot.
AJ Preller.
Every year. Yeah,
they got AJ Preller. He's crazy.
So I think they snag Ramon Laureano. I wouldn't be surprised if they made some other moves they have going on. So I think it's not it for the Padres. And then it's moving on to me. I'm gonna go to Eduardo Cabrera. I have him going to the Mets. This is kind of similar to the Zach Gallen, maybe a little bit. I think they can, use him, figure him out, and fit him in the rotation somehow, the bullpen, and then use him in a playoff setting. I think he's a great arm. He's got a lot of talent. I think the Mets can just figure him out. What do you think?
Some good points. I like the idea. This is my Cubs play. I initially had Sandy going there, but I think, just with the overall performance for Sandy, Edward Cabrera, they could just opt for him when he's, cheaper, and maybe they feel like they can get their hands on him a little bit more and kind of develop how they want to see it. With Sandy, there's no development there. And I just feel like it makes a lot of sense for the Cubs to go out, get a starter. I think Edward would be the guy. I mean, he's only making like $2 million as he's getting into arbitration. There's just a lot of meat on the bone. He's super talented. So I think if he's a guy that if things are going right, it's a top shelf arm, and the Cubs have the farm system to do it. They're like the Tigers. The world is their oyster at the deadline with just the depth and the talent they have in that farm system. So Edward Cabrera, I think, is going to be a Cub.
Okay.
So I have the next name here because you just did Edward Cabrera. I'll go to Zach Eflin, final Oriole on the list. He's a rental. I forget what the contract is with him. How much he's making? I'll look that up real quick. But he, I think, is also going to be a Cub because I feel like he's going to be a lot cheaper. He hasn't been a great performer by any stretch. We were hoping for a lot more from Zach Eflin in Baltimore. He's making $18 million, and he's just going to hit free agency again. I mean, I feel like the Cubs could just buy low a little bit, not give up a ton for a guy with a near 6 ERA. He would just help backfill some innings and help them get to the playoffs. And I feel like that's all he needs to do in that situation. And that's a really good situation because, at his worst, he's still, a back-gun arm that's just throwing every fifth day when he's right.
I hate the idea. I had the final Oriole going to the Padres once again. Maybe they package them together. I don't know. But like I said, he's aggressive. I think he gets Zach Eflin too to round out the rotation, maybe a 4 or 5. Fit him in somehow. They're aggressive. They always want to compete, so they're gonna grab a lot of names. And Zach Eflin, like he says, is cheap. And I think it's a good fit for San Diego.
Yeah.
That being said, I'll go to the next name. I have Marcelo Zuna. And this is my final Padres player. I think this is the big one for the Padres. They always got to get a big name, and I think he's on a brace. Is his last year of his deal? Like my internet's being spy right now. I can't pull up any contracts.
I think he's a rental, yeah.
Rental, so cheaper than you'd think. So to get him for the Padres, I could see it coming. They need some DH help. You just said they're top heavy. This would make them maybe more top heavy, but who knows? They need it. They're gonna do it. Braves are gonna ship him. Year's not going how they want, and they're gonna get some value out of him. This is my final Padres player.
I agree. I had him going to the Padres. Pretty much exactly what you said. I think it just adds depth to the lineup. It's a buy low opportunity. He's making $16 million. It's going to be cheap to get him, similar to like a Zach Eflin. And there's a lot of boom in the bat, but right now he hasn't been that impressive. So you are kind of hoping that he turns it around, but the Padres could just use the length. And I feel like Marcelo Ozuna, he wouldn't cost that much. Could be that guy. And did you take us into that name? I think you did.
I did.
Okay, so we got 2 more. I'll go to Jesus Sanchez. And for me, I had Jesus Sanchez going to the Houston Astros. I think that's a really good fit there. He just kind of helps fortify the corner outfield. I liked the fit when I heard it. Similar to Ryan O'Hearn, like I heard it and then I just couldn't, unhear it. So, yeah, for me, it's not. I know it kind of seems corny with the whole Kyle Tucker thing. Like, they got rid of the left-handed hitting corner bat. But I mean, Jesus Sanchez, you can get him. He's making 4.5 this year. He's got 2 more years of arbitration. If you're the Marlins, you have to sell high. Another guy that's in that bucket. You've never had a better opportunity to give him out. And the Marlins have a Kyle Stowers and a Griffin Conine on the way back from injury. So they're not going to have many problems. Even as Dane Myers, they're going to be fine if they trade Jesus Sanchez. And I think Houston could be the team to do that. I don't know what the package looks like because farm system's not great, but I just like the fit.
I am going to the Dodgers. I feel like it's kind of crazy we've been going all this way. We haven't mentioned the Dodgers once. So this is kind of my guy. I feel like Michael Conforto hasn't been great for him this year. I feel like they're going to replace him. Maybe Jesus Sanchez can fill that up, fill that gap. I think they're gonna make a move. They have to make some move. They're the Dodgers. They're not gonna go silent when their team is, not playing what they thought it was gonna be. So I think there's some move to be made for them. And then I think it's Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Dodgers have not been mentioned up until now.
And then the last name on the list, Luis Robert. He's gonna stay.
Okay.
Did you have someone else on the list?
I had Robert Suarez on the list. I forgot about Luis Robert.
I think I forgot our Robert Suarez.
Luis Robert is probably a better conversation, so we'll just do him.
Well, I just think he's gonna stay. I mean, White Sox. If they wanted to trade, they would have traded him by now. I don't see why would they why now? Do you see it happening? I don't know.
I think it could happen. I mean, it's tough to tell. Like, it's really just a waiting game with the Luis Robert. You're just hoping that he's going to turn it around. He has so much talent still. I mean, it could also be like he just needs a change of scenery, but he's pretty expensive right now. And he has club options after this year, $20 million in 2026, 2027. I think, the Reds, I think, could make some sense if they wanted to do that. They need that kind of outfielder, and maybe they could turn him around, especially in a small ballpark. Astros could be in there. Just teams like that. But I feel like Cincinnati would make some sense because they have the prospect pool in a way that, they could definitely cobble it together and not exactly feel it. So I think Cincinnati, if they were feeling like they could, if they had the confidence to make it happen, then they could do it. But again, I think Chicago would be pretty hesitant right now to move Luis Robert. I mean, he's hitting 205, 11 homers, 638 OPS. Like, that's not impressive. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you where he's not going to move. But if he does, I think Cincinnati can be in play.
All right, and then it's Robert Suarez for you, right?
Wait, you just want to wrap it up there?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just wrapped it up.
Yeah.
We'll give
okay.
Players of the week.
Because he's probably not going to move, even though I did have a team written down. Players of the week. I'll talk about our hitter. You got the pitcher. And our hitter is pretty exciting. We got Nick Kurtz. Or Nicholas Kurtz. Yeah, I say that carefully. We were joking about that pre-show. I mean, Nick Kurtz is pretty amazing. What he did. I mean, he had a 4 home run game. He had a crazy amount of base. He drove in 8 runs against the Houston Astros. He's having a phenomenal season, too. I mean, 23 homers, 59 RBIs, 308 average. He's got an OPS over 1,000. He has got to be our hitter of the week. And by the way, new format, 1 hitter, 1 pitcher, regardless of league. We're going to streamline the process. And Nick Kurtz, saying that carefully, and if it comes out the wrong way, then I'm sorry, but yeah, he's been amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the best offensive game of all time. Wow, I mean, 6 for 6. That's tough to beat right there, all time. Gotta remember that. And for our pitcher of the week, we got Christopher Sanchez, who diced up my Red Sox in 9 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, 12 strikeouts. Just a match class. It wasn't fun to watch, but I gotta appreciate it. He did a great job. We couldn't figure him out. And to go the whole 9 is pretty impressive for him. So that's kind of it. Nothing, it's impressive, but nothing too nothing like a 6 for 6, 4 home run game. But that's it for Christopher Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, he was wheeling and dealing. And if we're gonna award singular performances, then complete game, 1 run is pretty phenomenal. That's going to do it for the episode. So those are all our trade deadline predictions. I'll try and get this out tomorrow. So, this was recorded in advance. if any moves are made after this. We didn't know anything, but yeah. So we'll try and get this out ASAP. So the trade deadline is right around the corner, or it's pretty much here. I mean, July 31st is the last day to make trades. So we'll see if we're right. We matched up on quite a few. We had some interesting thoughts and opinions. And yeah, I mean, trade deadline season's always fun. And we'll have to see what teams make a push coming down the stretch. So that's all we got on the program today. We hope you guys enjoyed. And with that, we'll see you next time.